This is not politics. Please don't forget. I'm just practicing to be a poet. Not qualified as yet, but have no fear. I'm gonna get there. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectation. Neither are you in to live up to mine. I don't owe no one, no obligation. No one owes me none, so everything is fine, fine. I said I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. Serious business. There is a time for everything, and for everything there is a season. So man and man must reason. So I think it's prime time that we address some more issues. Simple information I will use. No rocket science to get you confused. So relax your mind. Make sure everything is fine.
And good night to you, Grenada, Carriacou, and pretty Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, wherever you are locally, regionally, internationally. Once again, it is time for Talking Points. My name is Sheldon Scott. It's 6 minutes after the 8 o'clock on the Spice Isle of Grenada.
Refrain.
Oh boy, I'm gonna get some copyright strikes tonight.
You sure is that you wanna say? Cause you sounded so good to believe. And deception is a powerful thing when you lose your right.
It is what it is.
So we voted for the bling. But you trick us with campaign promises. We won't say a tease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain. But you now refrain. You now refrain.
Yes, indeed, folks. Tonight we will be having a guest joining us. We will be having Dr. Augustine Pancho. He will be joining us a little later on.
Yellow man get yellow, even green get yellow, and so says 11-4. When you trick us with campaign promises,
so tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Talking Points is on.
We've waited in vain.
But don't just tell them it's on. Tell them to join and listen.
You now refrain. Old school parables say you know what you have, but you don't know what you go get. So cherish what you have to diminish regret. But what on earth lasts forever? Not even things created by the great Jehovah. So the green grass ceased to grow to allow the yellow vibes to flow. But boy, one song I sing, one bell a ring. If we didn't know, we never know yellow would have treat us so. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease.
We say a special good night to all of you joining us on the YouTube. All of you joining us on the Facebook. Let's see who is on the Facebook. Yeah, we're going to start with Facebook tonight. And let's see who's on the Facebook tonight. Linda, Imelda, Francois, Anna Lewis, Wallenaqua, Dan Romney, John Mark, Marlon Ferguson, good night to you. Ingrid Bourne, Ruth Chitterman, Teresa Gill, Jermaine Lewis, Evelyn Narayan, Ingrid Bourne, Maudlin, good night to you, Maudlin Bartholomew, Lynn Joseph, Dennis Fabio, good night, Donna Langdon, Sunny Isle, a special good night to you, my dear. Let me see, Charmaine Ragbasing, Yvonne Courtney, good night. Betty James, Veronica Frederick, Esther Peters, Claude Abraham, what's up, bro? Claude, where's the scene, man?
Powerful thing when you...
Alban Harris, good night to you. So Winnie Simon, good night. Nicholas Ewing, Jesse Sherry, Olive McEwen, Tegwa, Teresa Collimo, Nurse Wendy Ann McGuire. Good night.
You now refrain. Yellow.
Sean Batiste, Sherry Lambert, McLean Mitchell, good night to you. Yoland Moraine. I see Glenda John, good night to you.
Yellow, and so says 11.
Figgy Lewis, good night. Nelsia Charles, and let me see who's over on the YouTube. Yeah, folks, on the Facebook, remember to like. Let me see, I like it there. And let me make sure that I share. Right, I share it there. And let me see if I can share it otherwise too. Right, I'm sharing it to my story. So I share it there, right. And to those of you on the YouTube, let me see who I see there.
Created by the great Jehovah. So the green grass ceased to grow to allow the yellow vibes to flow.
Merle Patrick, good night to you.
Song I sing,
Joy Pascal, Alan Jones,
you know, if we
good
didn't
night to you and the home circle. Jenny Samuel,
just so.
Chunky McIntyre, Frederick Noel,
Campaign promise,
Red Girl Pascal, good night to you.
that's the way.
Eliza Bernard, Stephanie, John, Ron, Julian, Princess William, Gavin Thomas, Joycelyn, Patsy Frank, Mavis Mitchell, Christine Otley, Chris London,
They began with the
Jocelyn Madison, Jerome Lewis, Bernard James.
past administration, the cause of frustration. Past administration,
As we always say, anybody we left out, we didn't leave you out for spite, eh?
then to economic recession, we can't give you attention. Economic recession, the cause of.
So as I said, we will be joined by a guest tonight. We will be having Dr. Panch, who will be on with us tonight.
Trick us with campaign promises.
That should be roughly about 8:30, but we can have a conversation in the interim until he joins us.
When you lose the strain, but you now refrain. All your projects are stuck in a pipeline.
I listened to the Prime Minister and the others today speaking about the transportation issue, but I am not going to delve into it today because some things were said there that has caused some concern in my mind. Yeah? There are some things that I need to speak about there, but I don't want to start speaking about it and leave it alone. And I want to accompany that with the clips that we have and so in relation to what was said and just to seek some clarity in relation to some of what was said today at the Transportation Commission meeting. I'm seeking clarity. I want to know if what I'm hearing or what I think I'm hearing is the direction that, because it was kind of confusing. In listening to the meeting, I thought that if you have the Transportation Board and they're having a meeting and they're coming out to the Grenadian people today, I thought that what they would be coming out with would be, this is what we've decided, this is the direction that we're heading. Not that identifying the problems that all of us as Grenadians know already. We already know that people just catch hell to go home in the night, especially when you're living on the West Coast. We know that as a fact. If you pass there now, around by Keep Left, you're going to see a bunch of people there trying to see if they get a ride going up on the western side, trying to reach into Happy Hill, Beaujeu, and further afield. Those who are trying to reach up to Guave, those who are trying to reach up to St. Mark, and oh my, those who are trying to reach to St. Patrick. So you see them there. If you go right now, you're driving along there, you see those people. So we know that is a problem. You don't have to have a press conference to tell us that's a problem. If you have a press conference, tell us what's the solution to the problem that you have come up with. Yeah? Don't waste our time and make us come and listen to a press conference for X amount of time. And all you're telling us is we know that there's an issue for people that are working in the hotel belt to get home on a nightly basis. That is an issue that continues. We know that there is an issue when it comes to that. So I would think that if I'm going to listen, that you have proposed one or two possible solutions, and this is what you're going to do, not to come and tell me, well, there's a problem. We know there's a problem already, so I mean, yeah, I know Somalia doesn't really live in Grenada or probably never even take a bus from one point of Grenada to the other. And it's pretty much sure that none of you all even drive bus to know from the driver's perspective or the conductor's perspective how it does be on the road in different areas. Instead of sitting there and pontificating on this should happen, that should happen by being an outsider looking in. Yes, the outsider looking in perspective is important because it gives you a different view, but also you need to see it from the inside out. And I'm not saying that you need to go and drive bus. I'm not saying necessarily that you have to go and sit on a bus and drive between town and Grenville or whatever. I'm saying ensure that some of the people who do that, some of the people who go through that on a daily basis are key components of the final decisions that are made. As it is right now, that doesn't seem to be the case. But again, as I said, not going to get into that deeply tonight because tonight we're going to be speaking with Dr. Pancho on several issues. And he hasn't come on yet. I know he will in a little while because we said for 8:30. So in about, the next how much minutes I expect him to be on. Yeah, so I didn't want to go into that deeply tonight, but we will discuss that a bit more and at length tomorrow night because I listened to the press conference and one of the things I was trying to figure out is why did they even have the press conference, yeah?
House gets yellow, bus gets yellow, man gets yellow, even green gets yellow, and so says 11-4. When you
I mean, yes, an announcement, a major announcement that was made, and I can say this one, is that they have decided to remove the bus terminals from under the guidance, under the leadership, under the management of the Grenada Ports Authorities and place them under the Transport Board. Well, they think that's the best direction to go. I'm not saying no, let's see how it works out. Yeah, so that's one of the main things that they did mention that did come as an outcome from that we heard that you're going to move the St. George bus terminal from under the management of the Grenada Ports Authority and place it under this entity, that you're also going to remove the licensing of vehicles, the inspection and licensing of vehicles from the Royal Grenada Police Force, and you're going to place that under the the purview of the Transportation Board as well. So no longer would be a case that the police are the ones that are going to be issuing the stickers and that sort of thing, but the Transport Board, well, let me see how that works out as well. I'm not going to say it wouldn't work. I'm not going to say it is not something good. I'm going to say let's see how that works. All right, 440-7377. Let's take some of your calls before we get on. And I think I can see, yeah. I think I can see my good friend sign on there.
But when asked, how is the country going? Oh, fine. We are looking into it. Never mind. Only projects in pipeline. No water to cool down the yellow temperature. When will they start?
So before I go to the calls, and as I said, I'm not going to say that it's not going to work and that sort of thing. I think let's see how it works out. Let me see if I can hear my good friend Dr. Pan. Dr. Pancho, are you there? Let me just make sure I have the right one up. Hello? Hey. Yes, I think I'm hearing you there. You're okay? Let me see. Let me just make sure and bring this like this. Yeah, I want to make sure that I have you like this. Nice. Go ahead and speak for us, please. Good night to you, sir.
Good night, sheldon.
All right. I'm hearing you perfectly, Dr. Pancho. And, people been asking about where Dr. Pancho. We ain't hear Dr. Pancho for a while. But there is busy, so. Let me just, I'm just having a slight issue here, and I'm not sure why that is happening. So I'm just trying to fix a slight issue to bring up your video. And right, I've got it sorted out now. So let me just bring up your video right now. So folks, we've been joined by Dr. Pancho. How are you doing, sir?
Good night, Sheldon. Good night to all of our faithful listeners. I am doing good.
Yeah. Which part of the world are you right now? People want to know. They say, wait, Doc.
I am situated in California at this moment.
What time is it there now?
It is now 5:18. So you are 3 hours ahead of me.
Whoa. Yeah. So I'll come and I grab you just before the evening news.
Yeah. Very, very often I listen, I get glimpses of your program. I am able to see, listen, but because it's early in California still.
Yeah.
During that time, I have commitments during the scheduled program. So that's why the listeners and viewers of the program have not been seeing me or hearing me.
Yes, indeed. And how have things been going? How is the family?
Well, the family is doing very well. Yeah, everybody is good on this side.
Yes.
Everyone that is important in my life is doing okay.
Yes, indeed. And I know you've been following up on what has been taking place in Grenada as of late. Within the last week, we've had 2 gun-related murders. Yesterday, there seems to have been a hanging. I know it's always difficult as a Grenadian outside, knowing your home when you're hearing these sort of things happening. I mean, how do you cope with that? How do you deal with that?
Well, there is no question. I was listening to a program today, and someone of prominence indicated that this these happenings in Grenada is an anomaly, and I sort of disagree, because we're seeing too many murders and too many crimes, especially violent crimes committed in Grenada recently, to think that this is an anomaly and that this is not. I, so I shudder. To answer your question, I shudder when I see, when I read, when I am faced with the news of another murder or suicide or some act of violence happening. Um, you want to always remember Grenada as a very safe place, a very tranquil place, an environment of peace, and as we like to call it, paradise. And so when you see those things, these are a threat to safety of people, and especially as an island that depends heavily on tourism as an income earner. That too is threatened. We a couple of months ago we had the violent attack on the foreign couple, by Grenadians again, and so we have to be very cautious how we deal with criminal activity, and I know we're going to talk a little about that tonight, or maybe a whole lot about it. But when I see it, when I hear it, it certainly is not the kind of news that you want to hear.
Yeah, and what does it say about Grenada and where we at this stage? This is not something. It is becoming a normal. We've seen it start this way in many other countries. In For instance, in Trinidad, it was every now and again you heard about they found a body here, or they of a robbery here, of a this at that, and so until it became a bit normal in the Trinidad sense that in fact there are situations where they find bodies in Trinidad now, or a murder may take place, and it doesn't even make the front page. It doesn't make it somewhere in the middle of the paper, if it makes the paper at all, or sometimes it just gets a mention that a body was found, for a one-liner, and it's not something that they're concerned about. It's gotten to that stage. If we're not careful, will we head in that direction?
Well, you are right. You are right about sensitivity to crimes and criminal intent. When violence or crime face our people, if we are not careful, we could become so acclimatized to violence and criminal activity that it does not strike us as odd, or it does not make us shiver. And this is a very sad situation in which to be. There are communities in the United States and elsewhere in the Caribbean, especially, and you talked about Trinidad and Jamaica, where gun violence and violence is so predominant that people come to expect the nightly gunshot in the air and the nightly sirens, and they become so accustomed to that, it becomes part of how they operate their lives. And I would hate to believe that that would be something that Grenadian will accept in their psyche as normal behavior. I think I still want to be shocked when I hear of a suicide, or when I hear of a criminal offense, violent crimes, a crime in Grenada. I want to be shocked. I want to be held in awe, and still be surprised and still be in a state of disequilibrium, as it were. I want to be in a state of shock. I do not want it to become part of the fabric of my society. And the sort of violence that we're seeing in Grenada these days. I mean, for the year so far, we have had several deaths, and I'm not keeping account of how many we have had, but especially, it seems as though every week for the year, we're hearing of gunshots or gun violence in Grenada. So this, and I think it's not just Grenada, but several of the other Caribbean islands and St. Lucia. I was reading the news also. Um, Gun violence is becoming very commonplace in our society.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask this question though, as a scientist, because you are a scientist. As a scientist, is the focus at this time a bit skewed? And I ask that in this sense. We are focusing on guns, 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 guns. But if the guns are removed from the equation, do you think it will affect the violence? Yes, the gun gives more range. You can injure or kill more persons. But if the mindset isn't addressed with the young people in the first place, if they don't address the mindset of these young people, is it that we kind of so focus on the guns that we're losing the bigger picture here? That there's a issue that needs to be addressed otherwise?
Well, let me say this, Sheldon. You are venturing into a very complex sociological concept, and that is violence among people with minds that are set to hurt others, which means that if guns are available, they will utilize guns. But if guns aren't available, they will resort to different weaponry. Okay? So that is the question you're asking. And it's a very good question. So we have to start now to think about the criminal mind and criminal activity and how it is perceived in society and how the criminal mind is coached and developed which result in criminal activity, because criminal activity does not you do not just wake up one morning and decide, well, you want to be a criminal. Okay? Criminal activity takes time, it takes planning, it takes certain calculated and consorted risks and behaviors before it becomes the criminal activity. So I agree with you. That's one of the things that we have to start to think about. And later on in the program, I am hoping that you would allow me some time so that we could look at policies.
It's your program. You can talk whichever one you want to talk on.
All right. Well, very good. Yeah. Because certainly tonight, it is not fruitful for us to point fingers and lay blame at any one entity, whether it's government, NGOs, or even the population at large. We must be prepared, Sheldon, whether it's government or not. We must be prepared to start looking critically at the ways in which we can educate our population, how we can collectively create policies that are conducive to peaceful living. I think that's a major concern, and so I want to talk about that later on in the program. But I want to talk about the criminal mind and understanding the criminal mind. And if there are certain conditions that give rise to crime, sociologically speaking. So when we look at economic factors, factors of deprivation, factors of inequality in the distribution of resources, factors that talk about unemployment, poverty, we find that in areas throughout the world where poverty reigns, there is a greater propensity for criminal activity. And you have to understand, you have to put in there also drug use and drug sale and manufacture and sale of drugs, because manufacture and sale of drugs is a lucrative business throughout the world, and it's taking its toll in the Grenadian context. So when we talk about economic reasons, we are not just talking about who have the people who have jobs or who do not have jobs, who have money to spend or who have family away to send things for them. We're also talking about ways people try to survive and for easy money. And one of the ways that they do is to engage in the drug trade. Worldwide, this is a problem that people think can solve poverty or lack thereof. And when you talk about the drug trade or manufacture and sale of drugs, Sheldon, we're also talking about the easy access to weapons. And that's where the gun mentality comes in. It comes in because people now need to protect themselves. They need to protect their property. They need to protect their drugs. And so people have easy access to guns. And I tell you, when the research is done about Grenada, Sheldon, you would realize that part of the reason why there is a great increase in gun violence and gun-related crimes in Grenada is because of drugs. The manufacture and sale of illegal drugs bring in with it the need to have those weapons, because those weapons are akin to the drug trade. So when the research is done by the police and those who are in authority, they will find out that there is an increase in drug activity in Grenada. And that is something that we will talk about, when we come to talk about the policies, et cetera, later on. Okay? So I just wanted to lay that groundwork about the criminal mind and the way criminals seek to satisfy their need for cash, their need for cars, their need for material things, and just to survive sometimes. So trust me when I say that when the dust settles on Grenada and some of the islands, in St. Lucia especially too, this is one country that I have followed in the news and research. The gun violence, remember a couple of months ago, you had maybe daily killings in St. Lucia, and they were all related to drugs and gang affiliation. And what we're seeing in Grenada now, I remember a couple of months ago, was it Woburn on that side of the island where one person was killed in his car? These are signs of drug-related, gang-related violence, and they come together. Easy access to drugs, easy access also to guns and criminal activity. So we have to be very, very careful how we approach it. And I will spend some time talking about policies again, because tonight, let me make this overarching statement, and I should have made it in the beginning, Sheldon. We talk about national security. Okay, there have been calls for, where is our Minister for National Security? Where is the Commissioner of Police? Where are those who lead out in national security? Let me say here that policing serves a purpose in creating for us national security. Laws help to maintain laws and create safety, acknowledgement of crime, etc. But do you know what is the number one antidote to create safety in a country? The number one antidote, what the research says, Sheldon, is a peaceful environment and a happy people. What does that mean? That means when people are employed, when they can pay their bills. Watch this, Sheldon. This is going home now to how we treat people with economics and social programs. If you have a happy population, a population that can pay their bills, a population that can send their children to school without worry, a population that can pay their electricity bills, a population that has a little savings in the bank, a population that can open the refrigerator or the kitchen cupboard and see that there is some food. When you have people that are satisfied, people that can provide for themselves and their family, there is very little need for violence and criminal activity that threatens one's national security. So we are going to come to the point where I'm going to introduce to you. That's why when you take away social programs, and I'm not even talking about policies yet, when you take away social programs, the very vulnerable people in our society, those who are really in need, when you limit their earning potential, when they are faced with threats of job loss or termination or restrictions, sociologically, people are uneasy, and that uneasiness is manifested in criminal activity. So any government that is smart enough, that knows, any organization that is well aware, will know that to create a national security, to maintain national security at all levels, yes, I must have police and I must have laws and I must have policies, but I must also treat people with respect, regard, and look out for those that are at risk. Because, Sheldon, when you look at the 450 people that are in prison in Grenada, in Richmond Hill right now, if you look at each and every one of them, almost all of them were people that were vulnerable, that were people that had expressed needs, whether it was economic need or educational need or some kind of need. And as a result, they needed to survive. And because of any number of reasons, they ended up in criminal activity. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying the majority. So if you want to maintain national security, create policies for equitable distribution of resources in the country, not where one group of people are benefiting over and over and multiple times while others are wondering where their next meal is coming from. And that, to me, is one of the symptoms of what is happening in Grenada in terms of the violence that we see.
And folks,
I just wanted to pause there for our listeners to kind of digest what I just said, because it's a mouthful and it's based upon research. It's not hearsay. It's not what I believe. It's not my opinion. It's just authenticated research that I'm talking about. Because Sheldon, as you know, your program is just reaching so far. And yes, I mean, there is the political element to your program, but we have a country to safeguard. And I know your program is doing its part. You know, there are several things that you have talked about, articulated, and you know, you come back and say, well, they were listening, or people were listening. I don't want to say they to be too ambiguous. You know, people were listening, and here are some policy changes, and here are some things that are going to be, you know, proposed to be done differently, so that because it's about our people, Sheldon. You know, and I know some people say to you, Sheldon, you're giving too much advice. No, I want you to give them advice, or to give advice generally, because Sheldon, we live in Grenada. You know, I might be in California now for the last couple of months, but I was in Grenada. You didn't know. In February, I was in Grenada. I came back in March.
No, I spot you.
Came back.
I spot you.
Yeah. I am around. I go in and out, you know. But so we have a country to build. And when you have a country to build, it doesn't matter on which side of the fence politically or religiously we stand. If we can do our part to make Grenada a safer place, you know. I mean, 2 days apart, you had 2 different shootings in the last couple of days. One is fatal. Okay? What is that telling you? You know, it's telling you that people are desperate. Now, we don't know why that person hung themselves yesterday or the day before. I understand it's a young person.
Yeah, 24 years old yesterday.
How old is
24?
Oh, so 24. So okay, so it wasn't a secondary school child. Somebody told me it was a secondary school child, but no, it wasn't a secondary school child. But but um so Sheldon, let me say a few things because I want callers to engage us tonight, huh?
Yeah, we're gonna give them the
Let me
chance
say
to
this.
call when you're ready.
Right. Okay. No, but I have a few more things to say. You
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that,
So
right?
we hold off till yeah.
Yeah. So um so we talk about the gun violence and we talk about the criminal mind and we talk about the conditions that seem to give rise to criminal activity. And we are saying that one of the ways that we can solve that, not necessarily solve, because we're not saying we're solving problems. We are saying that we're offering suggestions that have worked before and they can work again. And we may indicate some creative and new ways to look at things. But we are saying tonight, and I'm establishing this as a fact, that when we talk about national security, we should spend time focusing on people and people development. If you have a peaceful environment in which people can thrive, reach their full potential, whether it's educationally or career wise, in whatever skill they so choose, when you have people that are engrossed and engaged in building of themselves and their country, they have less energy and less focus on criminal activities. And that is what national security is about. See, Sheldon, if more of us are law abiding citizens, then the police will have less work on their hand because we are going to be engaged in family building, engaged in our career, engaged in planting and eating and celebrating rather than being engaged in criminal activities. And that's where some uh, organizations and governments, whatever they are, need to focus the energy. They need to look again at how we can develop our people. How can we develop our people? And when we focus on development of people and people skills, every seminar you go to that talk about whether it's sociological seminars or economic, they say to you, the people are the greatest resource of any country. That is true. It's greater than the diamonds and the rubies and the bauxite and the oil that you have, because without people, those resources mean zip, very little. So if you have educated people, civic minded people to take charge of a country's resource, then you have less opportunities and less time for criminal activities. Okay? But let me say this here. I want to put in a little piece here, and that is, in addition to the criminal activities that we're seeing, sometimes related to drugs and economic reasons and a penchant for criminal activities, we cannot leave out mental illness, Sheldon. Okay, because sometimes you have people who are mentally unstable, and these people have weapons, whether it is guns. I mean, when when a child, a 14-year-old child, or whatever age, can go to a secondary school and primary school. You know, a few months ago, I looked at a range of weapons that were collected from primary school children, not secondary school children, you know. And they were so innovative in the sort of weapons that they were able to make and to carry in their bags. Police did a search and found all these weapons. They do that in secondary schools sporadically also, and they find all this creative weaponry. When a child can leave home and go to school with the intent of hurting someone because he or she is carrying a weapon, you have to start to think about how mentally stable is that family, is that child, or is that home? And sometimes you have to ask, how mentally stable is the society in which we live? So we cannot rule out mental illness, mental instability in the equation of gang violence, gun violence, violent crimes, and suicide. So there is that aspect of it that that baffles me, Sheldon. And it baffles me because here's a point I want to make. I am not so sure that currently we have a government who understands the psychological needs of its people. I'm going to repeat that. I don't think we have a governing organization who understands the psychological needs of its people. Because if you do, you are going to engage more robustly in psychosocial in the psychosocial development of our people. And there was a lot of mouth play, Sheldon. A lot of things that were spoken about grandiose, policies that were going to be instituted, and how many counselors we're going to have, and how many psychologists we were going to have, etc., in the Ministry of Health and elsewhere. And to date, unfortunately, we are not seeing the manifestation of a ruling government who understands the psychological need. And so they're not investing in the psychological needs of our people. And so when you put in mental illness and you put in the lack of facilities and personnel to provide psychosocial needs services, then you realize that people who are vulnerable and who are on the verge of mental breakdown, they will end up doing things, hurting themselves, but also, Sheldon, hurting other people. So when we come to talk about policy a little later on, I will address some of the ways that we can look forward to an understanding and maybe a government who knows what to do.
Yeah, let me ask a question. As you mentioned, the mental aspect of it. I have been hearing over the past couple weeks and months and so on of increasing numbers of young people finding themselves at the island's mental institution. And in quite a significant number of those cases, you're hearing that there's the connection to drug use.
Yes.
I don't know what you have been picking up. You have worked in that area, that field here in Grenada before. And I'm speaking of some people, even in their teens, that are finding themselves at the island's main mental institution. Some in their 20s and so on, even in their 30s. Generally, young people, a generation of people that are finding themselves at the mental institution because they can't cope. And, well, I'm saying because they can't cope. You may be able to say the exact thing. But in many instances, through drug use, in particular, marijuana.
Yes.
The same plant we see the Prime Minister aligning with.
Well, let me say this here, Sheldon. There is no question that the use or abuse, we used to say drug abuse, now we say substance use disorder. Substance use disorder. And so we're taking into consideration various forms of substance, whether it is marijuana, crack cocaine, alcohol, heroin, whatever it is, that meth, whatever it is that is prolific, prominent in Grenada at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But there is the research to suggest that because there are so many states in the United States who are now declaring the legalization of marijuana, we find there is a trickling down effect in the Caribbean and in Grenada. There is no question. Because of technology and the internet, people are reading and they're seeing, and there is research. There is research to suggest that there is a lot of medicinal properties in marijuana. And so young people, students, are doing the research, they're reading, and they're telling themselves, well, this is, there is some truth to it. But you're right. When you have a prime minister who is taking a picture and who is actively engaged in
promotion,
the discussion, and I want to say it correctly, so I don't want to, because I'm not following that one. But I know there is a lot of engagement, and I'm not taking a stand here tonight, Sheldon, that says no to the legalization of marijuana.
Yeah, and,
okay?
and let me make it clear that neither am I. Yeah, I'm just saying that
right. So
reactions differ according to people. What I may drink one glass of wine and I'm okay. Another person may drink one glass of wine and they totally freak out. They're totally freak different out. People operate at different levels.
Yeah, and so we have to acquiesce. In other words, we have to agree that there is sufficient research that has been done, not just by people with interest in medical marijuana, but on a whole, and good research that are not falsified, to show that there are medicinal value in certain properties from marijuana. Exclude, of course, the THC, which is the bad thing in it. But when we grow our little weed in Grenada, we are not concerned about the strand that does not have THC. In fact, the THC is what will make us psychotic. That's the one that gives us, that gives others, because, I don't use it. But that gives others the very high, okay? The THC content. And that is what, if every research that you study, once the marijuana is laced with THC, etc., and other carcinogens, then those are the bad things. But there are medicinal value for it. But what I'm saying here is that there is a lot of experimentation among young people going on. But you don't know what it is that people are lacing their marijuana with. People lace marijuana, good medicinal marijuana, with other harmful substances, Sheldon, that give you a certain high, so that you crave to go back to the drug. So some of the drug dealers know what they're doing is that they're putting additional chemicals in their drug to make it become addictive, because they want to sell. They want to sell above the others, and they want to sell more. And so our young people who engage in the use of marijuana must be very cautious about drug use on a whole. Abstinence is probably the best way to go until you can make a calculated and wise decision about what to and what not to take, based upon the advice of people, etc., and especially the medical community. But so the question you ask about young people being, whisked away to the emergency rooms and maybe to Mungay for psychiatric evaluation is a reality. I know of it. And it is related to drug experimentation, drug use, sometimes overdose, and added to the fact that some people are already mentally unstable. When you add drugs or any substance to the mental illness, then you see what compounded situation you can have. So it has to do with education, Sheldon. It has to do with policies. It has to do with careful, oversight from our population. We must be our brother's keeper, Sheldon. We must have policies in place. But there again, so let's go back to my fundamental overarching statement tonight. If we want to keep our people safe, we want to have less crime and less violence, less suicide, we have to invest. We have to continue to invest in our people. And we have to invest in the at-risk people. And we have to make the distribution of resources in the country equitable enough so that everyone gets a piece. That is what national security is all about.
And folks, we're speaking with Dr. Pancho here. our good friend out there in California. I don't think it might just be minutes to 6 now out there in California, US. I hope, wife. I know you might be listening in the next room. Make sure you bring a nice warm cup of tea for Dr. Pancho, because I realize the throat is giving him a little problem, and we don't want him end up like a certain other person that has end up when they interviewing. We want to make sure Dr. Pancho flow. So, wife, you're allowed to come in and bring a nice warm cup of tea for Dr. Pancho. No cold thing. Warm tea you could bring for him for the throat. Dr. Pancho, we mentioned the drugs because just before we move off the drugs part of it, there's something that's happening here in some of the secondary schools. One of them is that we have been seeing a situation where they're making this fudge. Some of the children are experimenting with edibles. So they're taking the marijuana, they're making the fudge, and they're bringing the fudge and so on to school, and they're little baking it into cakes and so on, bring it into school. Obviously, the security at the school see a child passing with fudge, they wouldn't bother with it. The teachers seeing it passing around, they wouldn't bother with it, until somebody that uses it starts to act funny and you realize there's a problem here. And it has been happening in several of the secondaries, at least I know for the secondary schools. I could name names, but I ain't going down that road. But several of the secondary schools, they've been doing it. And it has been having a very, very negative effect on children. So that is one of the things when it comes to the drug use part of things. Because obviously they're not measuring. They don't know the amount of the substance they have to put into the mix. They just do something. They might put how much amount or whatever, and they don't know the mix. And it is having an effect on some of the children. So sometimes you see your children coming home acting funny, and you're wondering why. You're not smelling anything on them because they eat it. Yeah?
Yeah. You see, they are very, and because of the proliferation of the internet and education on a whole, which is a good thing.
YouTube, they're learning how to make it.
you can Google YouTube, and they will show you how to make extract the oil from the leaves of the marijuana plant and the seeds and the leaves from the marijuana plant. How you can, and then you get the potency of the oil, and that you can just drop it in a glass of water, or you can drop it in the cheese in your sandwich. You know, when we make the cheese paste, you can put it there. I hope I'm not giving people ideas right now.
Well, the thing is, everybody knows Google and YouTube and so on, and they can find.
And that's what they do. Yes, but you're right. You're right that people are now doing the edibles, and so it becomes easy, and it is fast acting in your system. The moment you drink it, you eat it, the process of digestion starts to take place. It goes into your system, immediately within a few minutes, it starts taking its effects. And so parents have to be very cautious now and to sort of monitor, as it were, their child. And if you suspect that your child is a victim of substance use, or you probably need to get some professional help for him or her, because the edibles are a fast way and a very, you can conceal a lot of stuff in the edibles as you make your way to daily living. People can be on the job and you see them snacking, and they are just snacking away. Nobody smells it, and nobody is wiser because you're just eating. Yeah.
Doc, I want to move on now. It's 2 minutes away from 9 o'clock on the Spice Dial. I just want to move on here now to the issue of policy, because I know you wanted to focus a bit on policy, the area of policy. Let's move on to that particular area. And what are you suggesting in relation to the creation of the policy? In other words, what's your policy for creating a policy to address the issues that we now face?
Okay. Well, first of all, we have to look at national. So let's look at national security on a whole, right? So in a holistic way. So I am going to establish again that the greatest fixer for a peaceful nation, a nation of less criminal activity, is to provide for its people. And I am not just saying, okay, economic provision. I'm talking about education. I'm talking about social justice on a whole. There is something that I'm working with closely right now. You know, when we talk about social justice, we are talking about how can I distribute the limited resources that I have to each person so that each person could walk away feeling that my needs are met. At least somebody made an effort, right? And that is there is less need for police. There is less need for certain rules and regulations and protocol when people are satisfied and when people are peaceful and happy. Okay, so that's my thesis statement for national security. But I dare say here that as a nation, given the fact that we currently probably don't have a a government that sees its population in the light where we want to provide for the needy and the most needy and the most vulnerable people in our society. We have to now start thinking of how we can fix it. And that is how policy comes in, the Sheldon. So you have to start looking at law enforcement. So now that which you had to do less of, you have to do more of it now because you are trying to fix it from a law enforcement. And that is where law enforcement will continually have to battle against gun violence and criminal activities, because if your people are dissatisfied, you put a lot of work on the police. And so when I say we have to now try to shift policy, so we have to put in place, Sheldon, unfortunately, within the last couple of months, as well as I do, within the last year or so, we have seen a deterioration in the law enforcement capacity of our country. There is no question that people are looking, criminals are looking. Think about it. Criminals look for vulnerable people to prey upon. They look for loopholes. That's why the two or three guys, they look for an open window, a broken fence, a broken bar, and they were able to evade the South St. George police station and ended up in gross criminal activity. They look for the weaknesses in the system, and that is what we see. So in terms of policy, we're now going to have to engage, I call it sensible policing. People who are knowledgeable. Unfortunately, what has happened within the last couple of months in our country's history is that we have seen the very knowledgeable, very experienced law enforcement people given a back position, a position of non-influence and non-relevance, so that people with a lot of critical policing thinking and capacity, they are not in the forefront leading the charge to help our nation deal with criminal activity. So I don't know with whom we are going to be talking tonight, with whom we are telling or who is listening. But unless you engage people who have knowledge and working knowledge of security, and not just, how to keep a police station safe or how to take a report. I'm talking about people with national and international qualifications who know how to maneuver criminal activities. Unless we do that and we change our policy, we are going to have to fight with the limited resources in the police force. Okay? So that's a given. So we are fighting a losing battle because we are not fighting, as I said, we have to fight on the ground with our social policies. And we're not fighting there right now. I know we're not fighting there. We have too many people. The Californian just came out and it says we're just bawling, and people are just bawling, and their mouth can't open, but they're bawling, right? Because of all of the social ills that we're seeing in our country right now. And it baffles me how we have moved from a point, Sheldon, in our history, politically as well, political history, where we have moved from a point where we were concerned about our at-risk families and children to know where we don't care about them. And and it's callous enough. It's seen in every policy that is now created. Okay? So Sheldon, we're not fighting there. We used to fight there. We used to fight good there. We had thousands of Imanis, and we had hundreds waiting to come on stream. We had youth programs, Sheldon. We had other psychological programs that were well established in government, right? We had things moving in a certain direction to take care of the needs of our people. Okay, we had the pension. We had all the seed, everything aimed at poverty reduction and equality, so that social security national security is maintained. So now we have to fight that battle there. But then law enforcement, we have to fight doubly in law enforcement, because we have lost a lot of the very senior people. You know, look at our former commissioner of police. He's actively now making international fame for himself when he could have done that in Grenada. Okay? He was there. He had the opportunity to implement all of that and to help. You know, look at some of our, I don't necessarily want to call names, but, senior police officers who have now been placed either on leave or as backbenchers, where they have very little or no say in how our national security is handled. Sheldon, that's policing. But we have to get a government that is sensitive to the psychosocial needs, Sheldon. I was teaching a class, and I had the opportunity to tell my students, I said, the greatest threat to any family is if a family member that is psychologically unwell. Because a psychologically unwell person, Sheldon, is not a person that you can trust. It's not a person that you want around you necessarily, because this is the person that can become violent at any time. This is the person that can go to the furthest end at any time, because already they are psychologically unwell. And for policy, we need a government who understands human growth and development, who understands lifespan psychology, and I'm not talking about graduate level work here, Sheldon. I'm talking about common sense understanding. When we understand people and how they grow and how they develop and how they mature, we have to understand that we cannot not just provide for the physical needs. When they have a headache or they have a tumor or a broken bone, they get it fixed. When they have something that's going on in their mind that signal that they're not well, there has to be. And Sheldon, I could tell you that I have been monitoring the psychological development of our country in the last year and a half, 2 years. Okay. And I am hoping that one of these days that somebody with a little understanding will say to those that sit in cabinet every week, we cannot let the psychosocial development of our country go down the drain. Because 3 years from now, Sheldon, is going to be so much work to be done to bring our people back up to psychological wellness, that in that time we are going to see the proliferation of violent crimes, rape and murder. Sheldon, look, 40% of all the cases that just went to high court are sex-related crimes. 40%. I did a research once when I was in Grenada. And that time there were 300 inmates. I understand now there are close to 400 inmates in prison. A prison that is built to accommodate 170. We have double that in there now. But 69% of everyone who were in there had a sex-related offense. So they might have gone there for robbery or whatever else, but they also had a sex offense. A sex offense, Sheldon, is an offense that is committed against anyone by force or an underage person. And when it's an underage person, since they can't give consent, it has to be forced. Okay? That's the legal meaning of it. Mm-hmm. That's why a 10-year-old cannot give consent. So if you have sex with it, it is unlawful because that person does not have the capacity to give consent. So you took it away. So if 69% of 300 inmates are sex offenders, that means about close to 200 of those in there have a sex offense. If you ask me, Sheldon, is there anyone that is employed in the prison system, we're talking policy, that can handle sex offenses? So it's none, it's zero. It's zero. There is zero counselors there. Okay? So you have people who provide little mentorship, but you don't have any clinically trained person there. So what does that mean, Sheldon? Quickly, let me add up because we want to have time now for questions. What that means is that when people are released, they are not rehabilitated. They have no idea. So they spend time in prison, 5 years, 10 years in prison for a crime, a sex crime, but they are coming out without any handle on the sexual offense for which they were in prison. And that's a policy decision. So you ask about policy tonight. So we talk about policy for law enforcement, policy for psychosocial development, and policy for appropriate therapeutic and counseling to be done with criminals. And that's just those who are convicted I'm talking about. So there we go. And I could talk more and more about policies that are in place and policies that I wish to see implemented. But currently, this administration is woefully and is glaring incompetent in dealing with the psychosocial needs of our population.
Is it what we refer to as a lack of emotional intelligence?
Yes, absolutely.
For instance, let me use a classic example. Today you had a press conference, even though the issue that was being discussed today is the transportation system, very important issue. But even while that is being answered, you've had 2 murders within the last week. You've had a hanging. The Minister of National Security, though not there in his capacity as Minister of National Security, you're still the Prime Minister of the country, you're still the Minister of National Security. Not even condolences to the families of those who lost loved ones. Not even a mention of that situation. Nothing. A platform, the media is there, you're live on social media, you're live on GIS, you're live all over. You have the opportunity at least to send condolences to the family, inclusive of one within the constituency that you represent because you're parliamentary representative. Yeah. And you don't take that opportunity to say, you don't have to get into the details of the case. Condolences to the families of those who have lost loved ones in these unfortunate circumstances over the past few days. No attempt to do it. Is that due to a lack of emotional intelligence? Because we see it playing over and over.
Well, this is the scientific terminology that we use right now, and that's it becoming very knowledgeable and common in use among our population, emotional intelligence, and that's what it is. Emotional intelligence is the ability of someone to look at a situation and to be impacted by the emotional content that is portrayed in the situation. And there is no question, Sheldon, that for the parliamentary representative / also the Minister for National Security would be aware of these violent crimes committed in our nation, the small nation that we have, and not be aware of it and to make a statement. I agree with you that today was an opportune time for him to make a statement, just a statement of empathy or a statement of showing concern, and a statement that reassures the public that, where this, we still cannot, we cannot overemphasize the need for Grenada to remain this peaceful paradise that it is in the Caribbean, because there was a need for that today. So I agree with you. Maybe lack of emotional intelligence, or lack of empathy, the ability, Sheldon, to identify with the suffering of someone or people. That is what is the lack of, emotional intelligence. That's what it is, really. Yeah.
I also want to ask a question here. If you know of any situation where counseling is offered to the families of people involved in situations like this. For instance, you have an individual who is murdered. You have an individual who has been arrested for that murder. I do not know for sure. I know in one case the individual has children. But at least that some sort of counseling is offered to the families on both sides. The children of the family and so on. Do you know if such is in place or if it is taking place? As I said, I know you have been within the system and therefore you would know what's available within the system, because I was kind of concerned thinking that, hey, yes, the big ones, they do the thing, but the children sometimes end up getting the worst part of it, because no one goes to them and asks them, how are you feeling? Are you okay? Nobody asks them that question. But the conversations take place in the house and the children overhear it. They overhear that, well, my father do this or my father do that, or my mother did this or my mother. They overhear the conversations. They go to school where there are children who know this is the person that drop you to school every day. Then I saw them on television last night and they say they did this or they did that, or this happened to your father or so on, and these children are going to school and there are other children who saw it, and we know children can be cruel at times. So just those situations, even they may even hear teachers, the teachers may not do it willingly, but there may be teachers speaking about the situation and the children here. What sort of assistance is being given? Because if we're talking policy, I would think safeguarding the children, especially in situations like this, ought to be part of our policy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The children are also victims in this situation. They are victims on the side of the person who died, who is no longer with us, and they're also victims on the side of the perpetrator of this criminal activity or the crime that was committed against the other family. So we have victims on both sides, and it is customary. I mean, in our context in Grenada, in terms of the provision of psychosocial support, we do have the Ministry of Social Development that provides, short-term counseling and crisis counseling. One of the things about it is that even though we have people that are readily available to provide the counseling, sometimes the families are very hesitant to accept it, But generally these days, Sheldon, we have people who really need it and they would reach out, or they will say. But what has become, what is the thing that we have to be very conscious about is that sometimes these people don't know how to reach out, and so the professionals, we need to reach out. As in the case of the fire victims, recently we had all these 17 or 19 people together in all of the families losing the all of the property, including their home, etc., etc. And a couple of them reached out to me, so I was able to reach out to a few of them also, and so I know other people reached out to them. So in every case, in our situation, in our family, in our Grenada context, when we have these tragedies, whether it's murder, whether it's suicide, I mean, even the family of that 24-year-old male who took his life, they also would need psychosocial support. So I'm hoping that that the Ministry of Social Development will reach out to them. You know, but I get calls all the time, Sheldon, from people, or people always refer to me, and even though I'm not in Grenada, I still reach out via Zoom or WhatsApp. I'm able to reach out to people even while I'm here.
Indeed. And folks, we're talking with Dr. Pancho, and let me pull up the numbers there because I think, Dr. Pancho, if it's agreeable to you, I think this is a good time for us to try to take some calls. I'm going to have to use a kind of roundabout method to do so, but I think it might be a good time for us to start taking some of the calls. So, folks, the phone number, 440-7377, that's 440-7377, and 347-329 3101 for those of you out there in North America, whether you're over on the California side, or you're on the New York side, or you're up by Washington State, or you're over the border, you're out there in Alberta or wherever. We say a special good night to each and every one of you. I think we have a caller online. Let me go to the phone line. Hello, good night. Hello.
Hey, good night, bro.
Hi, good night.
Good night, Dr. Pancho.
Good night. Good night.
I'm not no specialist in criminal justice or what have you. Just a layman. And I remember in our days growing up, we had nothing as peer pressure. You had some incidents, yes, no peer pressure. What we had was the belt pressure. When you follow bad company, your parents straighten you out. The Bible tells you, spare not the rod and spoil the child. But I think we join this global system now where we say corporate punishment is no good. Let's get away from it. So we break away from all those things and the root cause of what is happening, we're not addressing it. We're addressing guns. Guns don't kill nobody. The people behind the guns are kill people. So let's address what causing the people to do that and see what we could get out of it and get back to the basics where people will get to fear God, respect people in home, in school, in the public. Now, police don't respect nobody. Police cussing everybody. People cussing police. Parents cussing children. Children cussing parents. Where are we going? How are we going to get things solved when we're in this condition? I suggest we get back to the basics, get back to the fear of God, and let the Spirit of God lead us to have a course, because righteousness exalts a nation, and if we have no righteousness in it from leader down, we have no righteousness, then chaos. We can afford to abandon the medicine and expect to get well, and the medicine is Christ. So that's my input for tonight. Let's see if we could get it done.
All right, thank you very much, caller. Yes, indeed, Doc. I'm pretty sure
Yes.
you heard the caller there.
Absolutely, and the caller was on point. I want to thank him for raising this very, very important issue of people skill and people development. And this is one of the policies that, Sheldon, that we have to embrace. We must have a philosophy of educating our people. Okay. Whether it is in small groups, whether it is in school, make it part of the family life curriculum, or whether it is in youth groups or non-governmental organizations that have, their monthly meetings, etc., PTA. Look for opportunities. Our people need to look for opportunities to bring back a sense of value among people. Respect for life. Sheldon, this is fundamental to national security. Fundamental to national security is the concept that I must value your life and you must value my life. And if we value each other's life, then we would be less inclined to hurt each other. But the caller raised a point there about, God. And I think it's, I agree about God, but we have to have a
Doc, I'm not
understand that we were all born and or created with a purpose. then we look to fulfill that purpose in our lives. So we'll be less inclined to hurt another person because we say to ourselves, you know, let Sheldon be the great radiant that he is.
Oh, but I'm not sure what's happening, Doc. But
Because
your signal.
he has a purpose in life. I have things like prayer and respect.
Oh, your signal sort of dropped for a
Did
while
you lose
there.
my signal?
But you're on now. You're back now. But it was sticking for a while there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm really sorry because I was really making a great point. But I agree with the caller. What I was saying is that I agree with the caller that we have to get back to the point where we understand life. We understand our purpose in life. And if that happens, then we would be less inclined to hurt each other. And the caller talks about a knowledge of God and prayer. And these are great virtues to bring back in families and bring back in schools, I dare say. You know, in the United States, they get in prayer out of schools, they find, you know, unless it's a religious school, operated school, but all public schools, there's no prayer, there is no mention of God in schools anymore, and it's a lot of liberalization of the education, and so we have children that are growing up without that concept about purpose. And so in Grenada, if we have the opportunity to, and we do have the opportunity to continue to mold young minds so that when they become adults, they have a grounding that is unshakable, Sheldon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just missed a call. I know someone was trying to call us. Call back now. You got to call back now. Yeah, we're giving you the opportunity. You have to call back now. Because I know folks have questions. And let me get to the phone line here. Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Brother Sheldon.
Hi, good evening.
Dr. Pancho.
You're hearing Dr. Pancho?
Yes, I'm hearing.
Okay.
Yes, good evening. Grenada miss you, man. Come back to Grenada. Come visit us. All right. Brother Sheldon, the thing about it is, my brother, that what I can safely say, and I'll be correct up with that, is that we are so soon moving away from morality, right? You see, our leader said that morality is a private thing or a personal thing. But let me say this, right? That I owe everyone my morality, right? I owe you my respect, okay? So if I would not respect you, you would not respect me. And it's going to be a trend that is going to be followed, you know, especially as leaders. You know, I could remember mentioning sometime in the past that the behavior that we have in the greatest house in our country, in our nation, which is the parliament, the House of Representatives, when you have the Prime Minister referring to people as hungry mouths and beggy, and disrespecting his colleagues in the parliament, right? When you walk down on Melrose Street and you see a young man being called by the police officer, maybe on the observant of being practicing something that is wrong or illegal, and the young man would turn back and raise his hand at the police and cuss the police off. And when the policeman would have arrested or maybe carried the person to the police station, what you have there is a set of fighting with the police and the civilian in the police station. And then the parents of that child would go down to the police station, to the prison, and cuss off the police in the presence of the children, right? Let go my son, or you ain't locking him up, you understand? So as a result of all of that has happened, right, we are moving our way swiftly like quicksand. As the gentleman said a while ago, no respect for religion. You know, I believe there are 3 or 4 basic laws that we owe to each other, right? As I said before, mutual respect and understanding and tolerance, because sometimes we don't tolerate people because, okay, if you Muslim or if this one is Baptist or that one is Seventh-day Adventist or that one is Jehovah Witness, what we're going to seek to do is to fight them because we are different religious persuasions. If you're NNP or you're NDC or you're GOLP, it's the same thing. And when our children see that we are behaving as adults in that manner, right? You don't support me, I send you home. Put you on the street to beg, right? And it's my time now and things like that. You see, all of these things is, we see the fabric of our society is going to be destroyed because of our political differences and religious differences that we would not respect. And I firmly believe that we got to go back to basics. We got to get back to it. But we have gone a far way, so I don't know. I'm not too sure how we're going to get it back, get that ship back, on course, But anyway, it's good to hear you, my brother Pancho. Good to hear you. We miss you so much on this little rock here. All right? And there's somebody who say hello to you and good night.
All right, Pastor. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you. I am doing okay. Yeah. I wish I was in Grenada also, Sheldon. I wish I was there. But duties have me in California.
But we have another call coming in. We have another call coming in. Let me take this call. Hello, good night.
Good night, Mr. Sheldon.
Hi, good night.
Good night, Dr. Pancho. And good night to all of the wonderful listeners on to this program, and especially to the contributors. I really have to. Last night when I called, I said I had to speak about one or two things. I'll probably just speak about one thing because I realize you don't have a lot of time. But I want to piggyback on some of the things that was said because I am beginning to have a different concept of violence. And I know that's what we're talking about, domestic violence, sexual violence, other forms of violence. And the caller just before me, he mentioned something that I, in my own interpretation, term as a violence. If somebody is not of your political persuasion, or you think they're not, you just fire them from their job. And recently, well, over the last 2 years, we've been seeing a lot of that. And I thought that had slowed down and they had their vendetta and that they had satisfied themselves that they had done enough viciousness and wickedness. But it continues. It continues. Sheldon, I know on the program there would have been talk about the youth centers that have been closed down in the various communities, and St. Mark is one of them. So at a time when youths are troubled, when we're seeing a rise in violence among youth, then you close the youth centers. You close them without notice, without any kind of explanation, and they're closed. Instead of intensifying and improving what was there, you shut out an avenue for youths to get some support. And everything cannot happen in one place like in St. George or so. But we tried to take it to the rural areas, and now it is no more. And I see that as a type of violence. And I know one of the workers, she realized maybe she was fired when for the second consecutive month she didn't get her salary. And, people have grown to expect that now. The middle of the month, you don't get paid, so you wait until, the fortnightly paid that is touted so much about. Is when the 15th pass and no pay, and you say, okay, maybe it's going to come at the end of the month, and it doesn't come, then you realize you don't get your salary. And the next month, and so the person started to ask questions. And they said, well, okay, the center is closed down, so you're not working, you cannot get paid. Is that how we treat people? And just dismiss them without letting them know. And very recently, April has 30 days. On the 30th of April, a worker was approached and said, this is your last day of work. After working for a few years, the person was approached and told, this is your last day. There is a letter for you. Your brother will pick it up on the 30th of the month. And so from the 1st, you're not supposed to work. So, Dr. Pancho, I am thinking that this is a kind of violence, and that this is a very warped emotional intelligence. Something is wrong there. No empathy, no understanding, no feelings for people, no understanding of how some of our poor people live. Even when you expect your pay, you expect to do certain things with it. And if you had not been fired and given a month's notice, then you expect you might get another salary in May to do certain things. But all of a sudden, it's like you're wiped out on the map. You don't matter. And when people are treated as that, especially by people who are in authority and people who are supposed to be in position of leadership, I think it's very sad, and there's something very mentally wrong with that. I would like your take on that.
All right. Thank you very much, caller. Yes, indeed. Dr. Pancho?
Yes, Sheldon, the honorable.
Yes.
the honorable was on the ball tonight. My dear friend, let me say this to you, honorable parliamentarian. Listen. You are absolutely right. When you talk, you see, tonight we did focus a little on and define violence as the use of weapon, and we did go into disregard for social policies, etc. But you are right. Let me say this here. I remember when I was terminated with a letter that was sent to me while I was on vacation. I had gone on vacation and I got a letter that says, don't come back, give up your phone and your computer. Let me say this here. You are right, my dear friend. People, when we create an environment of uncertainty for the livelihood, Sheldon, of people are at risk, and you put their mortgage and their car payment and the food and the electricity and the telephone and water, you put it at risk through a letter. That is violence. Because we do not only talk about physical violence, but there is also emotional violence, Sheldon. So when you disregard people and you trample upon their rights to fair play and to judicial understanding, when you remove that, you're also emotionally violating them, and so that's emotional violence. So what the caller was talking about, there was a lot of social / emotional violence against our people, and that can't be right. And when you perpetuate it to the point where people are forced in a corner, Sheldon, when people are forced in a corner, whether it's physical or emotional violence, they react, and sometimes they react in violent ways.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. 440-7377. That's a 440-7377. That's the number for you to call and get onto the inside. You can call us on the WhatsApp, or you can call us directly. All right. My good friend, good night to you. JP, good night. And I think we have a caller on the line. Let's go to the phone line. Hello, good night.
Yes, Sheldon, a nice topic tonight. Dr. Pancho, good night.
Caller, could you speak up? Could you speak up slightly for us, please? Because I'm barely hearing you.
Say it again.
Could you speak up a little bit for us, please? No, we're not hearing you clearly.
I was saying it's a very good topic tonight.
Mm-hmm.
one of the I think one of the one of the persons spoke earlier on, and they were saying about to bring Christ back and all of that. Yes, I mean, I agree with him on that, but we're living in a different time now, and I remember, and I know you could relate to that. You take a village to raise a kid, and when you're growing up, you know that if you do something wrong, and the elders on the street and the meet you and see you doing something wrong, they take out the belt and flag you to correct you. That ain't happening in this time now. You can't do that. And these are the things that usually used to happen, that used to keep the kids in the street and narrow way. Because if you go home and you tell your mother or you tell your father that this person do that, or you do something wrong, you'll get some more from your parents. And that helps mold the kid. But now we're living in a different era. Facebook, internet, all kind of things exposed to the kids now. And then these are the things that drawing them away from a lot of things that, I mean, drawing them off. I'm setting them in the wrong path. Because you know, some of the kids they're going to sleep with their phone under the pillow. Internet street. If you don't check up and see what they're doing, what they've been looking at, all this violence and everything that will be on the social media. This has a lot to do with the kids today and the way they brought it, the way they're growing up. So the guy is right to say that yes, it's good if they could get involved. I mean, God back into it. That is the only way. But right now, if the parents have a big role to play in it, in everything that's happening, the parents have a big role to play with it, playing it. And if parents don't get their act together and to able to control the kids and to know what the kids are watching and play an active role in their life, we're heading down to a serious situation. So this is all what I have to say. And I mean, I thank Mr. Panchu for raising up all this important ideas that he has in.
Okay. Thank you very much, caller. All right. Yes, indeed, Dr. Panchu, your response.
Yes, and a very good. Thank you, caller, for your contribution. Certainly, you are talking the language of a community builder. In her book, former Senator Hillary Clinton says it takes a village to raise a child, and this is a concept that we cannot be devoid of. It doesn't matter how independent we become, Sheldon, and our listeners, we cannot move away from the concept of communal responsibility for each other. And so much so, Sheldon, and that's I think that's what's irking me. So much so, a government who is supposed to be for all its 105,000 people. When you develop policies for just 5,000 or 10,000, what happens to the other 90,000 of us? So you have to be seen as a government, for all people. And tonight I don't know what's wrong with my internet, Sheldon. It keeps dropping a little. But let me say this here. Let me say this here. In the voice of the last three callers, there is no question that we need policies. And so, Sheldon, we need a government who understand people, who understand what it means to empathize with people, what it means to be able to identify with people. Because there is a lot of platitude and picture taking that's going on, Sheldon, but the substantive reality is that you got to touch lives of people on the street, people in the workplace, students at school on the bus. You need to meet them, and so you have to have policies and you have to have programs that are in place to take care of all these needs. And the last caller talked about parents, and our responsibility. Caller, you're right. Parents, we cannot shirk our responsibility to teachers, and we cannot shirk it at all. We have to hold fast. We have to fight for our children. We have to fight for our communities. That's the only way we can lessen the violence. By fighting for our children, fighting for our communities. Yeah, we have to do that, Sheldon.
I think we've got another caller coming in via the WhatsApp. Hello, good night.
Hello, good night. So how you doing?
Hey, quite fine. Go right ahead, caller.
Yes, sir. I'm listening to your program, and I'm hearing some very, very good contributions. Well, I would like to say this to you. We always say that when things are not going right, we go back to our ABC. And our ABC is that of having a community, growing a child, and having your children grow up in Christianity. And among other contributions made in this life. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, caller. Yes, indeed. That caller was what we call short and sweet.
Yeah.
We have another caller coming through on the local line. Let's take the other caller. Hello, good night.
Hello, good night, Sheldon.
Hi, good night.
Pleasant good night to you.
Good night. Go right ahead. You're live.
I have listened to this program for quite a long time, and tonight, one of the thing tonight is that concerning the young people, the young people nowadays is very, very, very difficult to deal with them, meaning that the parents of some of the children, you hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing you. You go ahead.
The parents of some of the children, some of the parents are very young, some of them are not so young. But the things that some of them say around the children, say and do around the children, is not proper example for them in the first place. And some of the homes, you don't know who is parents, who is children. They allow their children to do and say anything, anyway, anytime, no respect. And when coming to the people in authorities, that is another question by itself. So, in other words, if this thing has to start somewhere, I'm not sure how and when this thing will come to an end, because every nooks and cranny across Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, everywhere you pass, it have little groups, and most of them, what you see they're doing, they have the whatever illegal stuff using, young children carrying stuff to school, what is illegal, and the teachers cannot talk to them, and even if they suspend them, they never go home and say, well, look, so certain thing is happening in the school, you have to come in the school. They pretend that they're going to school, that it has school, the parents don't even know about it. Why? Because the parents not putting out themselves to know their children behavior, know their children whereabouts, even calling the school, some of them not even going to PTA to know exactly what's going on with the children. So when you see and you hear this thing happening, we should know it will take us a very, very long time to straighten up some of the children, and it don't in authority. I ain't going to mention what is going on, what I see is going on, what I hear is going on. That is another story by itself. So have a good night, Sheldon.
All right. Thank you very much, caller. Yes, indeed, Doc.
Yes, Sheldon. Our callers tonight on the caller.
I don't know what has happened to the internet all of a sudden, you know.
as Bill, yeah.
I think you've come
building
back
on
now.
family strengths. That last caller. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The last caller. Building on family strengths. There's no question that we must have programs, and our task is going to be really great for next time, Sheldon. You know, to have programs for young mothers, programs for parents, programs in the school, programs in the PTA, whether it is the medical clinics, programs that the nurses can run with young mothers and training, because the responsibility is not just government, and we're making it clear again tonight. It also calls for community and family involvement in helping to curb violence, teaching a sense of purpose, you know, giving ourselves purpose and self-esteem and ego strength, all these kinds of nice things, Sheldon. But let me also tell you, Sheldon, the beauty about it is that even if we put all of these together, the package cannot be complete unless government, the government of the day also plays its part. So we could put parents together and great programs and policies and community involvement. But if we don't have the support from the government, that sensitivity from the government to push it and to articulate for it, we're going to fall short. And so right now we're going against the tide because we have a very insensitive government. There is no question that this current government are a bunch of people who are very insensitive to the regular person on the street. They have not shown a history for implementing any social change programs after 2 years in government. Well, 2 years is coming up in the next month, right? So 23 months, you have not initiated anything for the psychosocial development, no new programs, nothing to build people. And rather than continue with some of those that existed before, they are removing them. So those safety nets are no longer safety nets. So people are left out there to swim in a wide ocean that is filled with sharks.
Indeed.
And prey.
Doc, we have
enemies.
We have another call coming in, and we're going to have to take them quickly and brief now because we're quickly running out of time. Caller, go right ahead.
Okay.
You're live.
Good night, Sheldon. How are you tonight?
I'm quite fine, man.
I'm calling all the way from Carriacou.
Yes, man.
Oh, lovely job. Nice to be on the program. I'm so happy listening to you. Sheldon, boy, to be honest with you, I like to be talking the truth, all right? And I know the people from Carriacou and Pedimatic, plenty of them plenty shy to call the program and tell you what's going on. But I don't have a problem of calling you and making you know what's going on to Carriacou. Right now, I went to Pedimatic last week, Sheldon. Pedimatic don't have nothing. All what the minister for Carriacou and Pedimatic doing is say fixing road, and that is it, and you're only fixing the road for a partisan them. Sheldon Scott, let me stop making them people they're fooling we in Carriacou and Pedimatic. They're lying for us. Since the man come in power, Sheldon, and never hear the dark back, you hear the fall curve, you hear the drum beat, you hear nothing, the whole place quiet. Quiet. NDC have to go for Carriacou to go again. Right now, we normal. Everybody's ashamed to talk. The people in Pedimatic afraid to talk. People just coming from Pedimatic and say, yo, Ziggy, we need to talk to you. We want to know what's going on. Look what's going on here. Come and see. I go Pedimatic and do a video in Pedimatic. The road is, main road in Pedimatic, Sheldon is done. This government not doing nothing. The minister for Carriacou and Pedimatic not doing nothing. He already doing work with the chest high, and playing with both big man, the biggest strong man in Carriacou. And he don't ready yet. I can't wait. I talk to Senator Cox already. I say, Senator Cox, we watching you. We ready for you. Then we take over the place. I want all the people from Carriacou and Pedimatic, all you know, all you can talk, but let's come out and let's do the right thing. Let me get ready. Let me go out and register. And let me get rid of NDC. NDC have to go, Sheldon.
Yes, sir. But we're running quickly out of time, so we have to take it kind of short tonight.
Oh,
We will
yes,
speak
man. I
again.
will call tomorrow. I'll call all the aside for
No
calling
problem.
late.
No problem, my brother. So
All
we'll
right, my
talk
brother.
again
I'm going to give
tomorrow.
you this whole story.
Yes,
I'm
man.
going to call Leicester School. I'm
Yes.
looking what's going on by Leicester School, Sheldon.
Yes, so we'll talk tomorrow because as I
Oh,
said, we're running
lovely,
out of
lovely.
time. Love that.
All right, good.
Yeah, man. Yes, indeed. So we're hearing from Carriacou there and songs again along the lines of the lack of emotional intelligence, not understanding what the average citizen of Carriacou, Petit Martinique, what they are going through on a daily basis, and thinking that they're doing the roads, the same roads they say if we see them, bring them to the mental home. That's another story for another time. But the same roads, just thinking that physical structure and not looking at the people that have to walk on the road or the people that have to drive on the road. You know, not looking at the people, but looking just at the infrastructure part of things. Yes, indeed. Doc, I'm going to take one more call. I think this one might have to be our final call because I said we're running quickly out of time. So let me take one more call. This will be our final call for tonight. Hello, good night.
Okay. Hi, I'm glad. Good evening. I'm glad I got in. Let me first greet you, Sheldon. I'm calling from St. Kitts and Nevis.
Oh, wonderful.
Great. And I have been following this program. Let me greet my good friend, Dr. Pancho, who is no stranger to St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to tell him that I totally enjoy the program. He's quite informative as per usual, and we are connected no matter how far we are. You might be in Grenada, you might be in the US. We're one Caribbean country, and my little 2 cents I want to add to this conversation about crime is that it has to be community centered, and I think that is what I've gotten from Dr. Pancho's presentation, that it has to be driven by the community. Yeah, in terms of how we fight crime or we eliminate crime. And unless the measures are, or the decisions or the apparatus or the whole measures, it must come from the people. Yeah. And so I want to leave those few words with the government of Grenada, who I see, quite frankly, is struggling now with crime. I'm seeing the same thing in St. Lucia. Here in St. Kitts last year, we saw some peak in the numbers coming from a period where Dr. Harris presided over the lowest period ever in the history, with the launch of a particular program that was geared at engaging young men who were violence producers. So I think that is some of the things that Grenada might have to look at. How you engage these guys, how you get the skills training programs going, so that you can put idle hands to work.
Indeed. Caller, we'd like to thank you so very much for calling. And don't be a stranger. Use the number another day again.
Will do, my friend. It's not my first time listening. It's just actually my first time calling because I saw my good friend Dr. Pancho and I said I had to call.
We know you Kittians love him.
In fact, he's deserving of a St. Kitts and Nevis passport. So, Dr. Pancho, when you're back here, please check the Ministry of National Security, my friend. All the best to you. All the best to you. And I also bring you greetings from my political leader, Dr. Timothy Harris, as well.
All right. Thank you very much, caller. Yes, indeed, Dr. Pancho. Well, your Kittian friends.
Yeah, man, Sheldon. I tell you, boy, my friend, man, Dr. Harris and all them good people of St. Kitts, man. I love them. They love me. I wish I was in St. Kitts right now too. They're going through the same thing. Sheldon, we are parallel with what happened, because the elections in St. Kitts was 1 month after the elections in Grenada.
Yeah.
And so we had a change in government, and so Dr. Harris lost, of course, because the unity government couldn't stand against the Labour, and then of course the NNP lost. So we had these two progressive parties now being in opposition. And the people of St. Kitts are crying out with the same thing, parallel. What Dr. Drew is doing
and St. Lucia.
the same thing.
And St. Lucia.
The honor, and they are good friends, by the way. You know that they are good friends.
Yes, very good friends.
Yeah. So, St. Lucia too. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah.
Doc,
so
we're quickly running out of time.
Tonight, there is no question.
No, I said we are about to end, so I was giving you the opportunity for your closing statement.
So close up,
But it means we had to bring you back sooner because.
Okay, thank you.
Before you make your closing statement, I just want to say this before you make your closing statement. Out of all the programs I've done recently,
Go ahead.
Out of all the programs I've done recently, I've thoroughly enjoyed this one above many others. The depth that you went into tonight, the issues that you raised, and the thought process and factual information behind it, I think has been very impressive to all of the listeners. And I think I speak for everybody when I say that you have done an excellent job tonight. And we look forward to having you soon again. But I'll give you the opportunity to make your closing statement now.
No problem, Sheldon. When, one of the things is that time during the 6 o'clock, which is 6 o'clock in California time, which is 9 o'clock in your time, is when I teach. I teach. So I'm in classroom during that time. So that's why it's hard for me.
Yeah.
But when I can find the time, Sheldon, I'll tell you which night, and so then I could come on again. But let's say this, Sheldon. I know my internet keeps dropping, so let me wait for it. And as soon as it is,
we're hearing you. You're on.
Hurtful to any society, and our little island deserves better. And if we focus on people led by a sensitive government, then we are going to recapture some of our glory days. So let people employ their skills. Let's combine our efforts together, but we must be led by a government that is sensitive and that has empathy and emotional intelligence to lead its people. And when that happens, Sheldon, the glory days of Grenada is going to return. Thank you very much. I look forward to another session again soon. I promise you soon. I'll tell you when.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so very much again, Doc. You all know I've got to run. And literally, I got to run because if I don't run now, I might have to walk. So thank you once again, Doc, and give our love to your entire family. We know you are a person deep with family. Give our love to your entire family.
Yes, I will, man.
All right, indeed. Thank you so very much. Folks,
thank you.
We have been speaking there with Dr. Pancho. Yes, indeed, we have been speaking with Dr. Pancho. It's been a long time coming, and believe me, we all, I believe, learned quite a lot tonight. It was a very fruitful discussion, and I once again would like to thank him. I really, you all may not recognize it, but I really enjoyed tonight's discussion. Believe me, I think it added some new perspectives. Some people been asking me, what boss on this stand for? No, it don't mean that I'm in charge. It means blessings over Sheldon Scott. All right? Judy, that way boss meaning a blessings over Sheldon Scott. It didn't mean that Sheldon Scott in charge. It means the man above in charge. Folks, that's all the time we have for Talking Points tonight. It has been wonderful being here with you. In everything you say, everything you do it safe and secure. I want to be speaking to and with you. Those of you that can, don't forget your donations. Listen. If every person listening to this program donates $5, we have enough that we could do quite a lot of work in the background, not only on Talking Points, but outside of Talking Points. And you don't have to donate $5 a day. If every person that's listening donates $5 a month on the platform that we have, it is going to go a long way to the development of not just this program, but other programs that we are seeking to develop and other things that we are working on. All right, so that's all the time we have for tonight. And everything you say and do it safe and secure. I want to be speaking to and with you, and definitely not about you. Love each and every one of you. And I'm going to have to go to this one because I honestly didn't put the next one in place tonight.
I'm just practicing to be a poet. Not qualified as yet, But have no fear, I'm gonna get there. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectation. Neither are you in to live up to mine. I don't owe no one, no obligation. No one owes me none, so everything is